Can you guys sit your white asses down and listen to what I have to say?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sitting right now.
A 5'9" man with hate in his heart is speaking. So basically about, I mean, this is like a little bit more serious, but basically about 2 weeks ago, I know a lot of the like students and activists involved with like specifically Columbia SJP, Students for Justice in Palestine. And they had reached out to me and basically asked me to come to this event that they were having. Originally, it was at St. John the Divine, which is this cathedral right next to Columbia that's actually pretty impressive. It's like the largest, I think, cathedral in the United States, and it's like ridiculously huge, and it's been around for like almost 150 years. And they were doing this thing called the People's Graduation for all of the students at Columbia and NYU who were expelled or suspended or disciplined for kind of, standing in solidarity with Palestine, participating in the encampments, doing things of that nature. Some of the students who actually took over one of the buildings during, when all that stuff happened, which we've talked about on the show before. We've had guests on, we've talked about it. But basically I was, it's kind of funny. Like initially they asked me to speak and then I kind of got bumped, which was sort of funny, but I had like written this speech and stuff and I was really scared about speaking. I'm actually ultimately glad that I didn't speak because like,
it's a lot of pressure.
It was so much pressure. Yeah. And like Susan Sarandon was there and I was just like talking to Susan Sarandon, who's a very nice lady, but and who has been like a great advocate for her entire career for a lot of different causes. And there's very few people like her, but
very few people have been as consistent their entire lives.
For sure.
Astounding. Yeah.
It is like, and props to her, shout out, friend of the show, Susan, maybe she'll come on one day. But basically, I also met Mohammed Al-Kurd there, who is this fantastic writer and poet, who I think we will have on the show eventually. And I was just talking to him today, but pretty much, I don't know. I guess the feeling that I had was just, I felt this intense sense of like humility, because I had been so in my own head about going to this thing and maybe like giving a speech. Oh my God, am I going to give a speech? What am I going to say? And what do I have to say about this and all this other stuff? And just the reality of being there with Mahmoud Khalil's wife and their newborn child, who is like brand new newborn child. And she walked up and it was this very beautiful moment.
And he hasn't even met his child.
No, he has not. They wouldn't. No. They literally would not let him like touch his own child at the facility. They said it was like a security risk. Obviously, they're just like fantastically racist and evil. For no reason. I mean, like this is just pure torture. But he has been separated from his family. He hasn't even met his newborn child, and his wife is walking at this event and like getting this, kind of like diploma that they're using to honor him and stuff for his degree. And it's just really like, I don't know, like everything inside of this moment hit so much harder, I feel, than things that have hit for me over the last couple of months. I think because it was so unbelievable to be there, and to see all of these students who like, and young people who are like actually putting something on the line. Do you know what I mean? Like they're actually risking their bodies and in some cases like their degrees and whatever their professional life might be for the next couple of years.
And potentially even being in America.
Right. Yes. And of course, yeah, for people that have like visa considerations, there's also, obviously people have already gotten in trouble, including obviously Mahmoud Khalil, for just being somebody who was helping to be a liaison, if you remember, between the school and the students. He wasn't even like on the front lines, really. He was just like the guy who was assisting them from like an administrative perspective. And they're painting him as like a terrorist. And I guess I don't know. I think that like, it I think it's just been hard to, I think we're all feeling this thing, which is this kind of exhaustion. And in some ways you feel a level of privilege to say that you feel exhausted by this, because you're like, well, why the fuck do you feel exhausted? Like you get to sleep in a warm bed every night. You know what I mean? And I think it's just like the mental toll of this stuff. And it was like, I was so inspired by all of these people, in terms of how relentless they are and how absolute they are in their belief that they're like that you know, there is no alternative but to struggle. Like the struggle is part of this whole thing, and like there will be a cost to doing this stuff. And I think that I don't know, I'm sorry for rambling, but like I've structured my life around trying to do the most positive impact for the world. And like I do the internet stuff and I love the internet stuff. It brings me joy. But like the job that I do every day and the job that I've done for the last 5 years is working with the poorest people in New York, and trying to help them navigate these kind of opaque systems that are meant to disenfranchise them and hurt them and criminalize them. And that stuff can really be extremely disheartening. But I think that the thing we all have to like understand is that there's so much more at stake here. And I feel like what's at stake is our collective humanity, you know, like truly. And I think that it's not going to be easy. Like it's not going to just be the easiest thing. And the thing that I've learned over time participating in these things and caring about these things and supporting organizers and activists and stuff, and sometimes and representing people in the criminal system and in the immigration process and on all of these things is it's going to cost us something. You know, it's not going to be free, and it's not going to be easy, but like it's an absolute that we have to do it because like we're all fighting for each other's collective future, you know. And I was so humbled to be there, and I felt so selfish actually for how much in the past I have cared so much about what people think about me. Like, and I just I care so much less about that, I think, overall than I used to. But I think the only thing that matters is like what I want to say. I'm so sorry that I didn't write something down. I should have just written something down.
Going. This is good.
But I think that, you know, for everybody that hears this, I know that so when we think about the way the world is now, we can so easily feel hopeless. You know what I mean? But my job, like the job that I get to do every day in the Bronx, is so often so incredible because I get to work with people in the worst possible situation and help them try to figure a way out of it. And we can't always figure a way out of it, but like we have to figure out how to make the best of this horrible thing that's happening. And we have to work together in order to do that. And it's like it's the most rewarding work that I've done in my entire life. And I think that a lot of the despair that people feel is like a lack of connection with community and a lack of just getting out there and like doing shit, like just forcing yourself to go and do things. You know what I mean? Like, and there are people getting, you know, blown to bits. They're losing their entire lineages, family members, and they are still not like giving up hope. Like they are still literally fighting for their lives. And the least that we can all do is to like help them in the ways that we can, to fight for them, to not give up and to not give up hope, seriously, because that's the only thing that's like working that they want us to do. They want us to become exhausted. They want us to not care anymore. They want us to think that there's no possible alternative, but like it is a light lift with many hands, you know, like the more people that do, the lighter the lift. And like, it was a very, very kind of sad and somber event, but like so joyous from the perspective of like, wow, look at all these people here still standing who have lost so much, who have sacrificed so much, and like who will continue to fight this. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It was very, very inspiring. And I hope you can feel inspired maybe by that.
Yeah, just to add like one final bit on the end of that. A lot of right wingers always talk about, like, I always think of the examples of, like, I think it was Tucker Carlson that said that they design like brutalist buildings to like demoralize you, and it's like, okay, that's some goofy shit. What they actually try to do to demoralize you is like, do you remember that feeling of like in 2020, like when the Black Lives Matter protests really started, and it really felt like there was like big movement culturally and like politically, and it really felt like things were going to change, and then that like faded and was co-opted and kind of destroyed, and nothing really came of that politically, like in terms of like implementation of like anything like material that would improve people's lives. It just kind of went away. And then like people going to like Palestinian protests after October 7th and being abandoned by the Democratic Party, people like these colleges that call in the cops and send people to jail and destroy their lives just for using their free speech. So it's easy to feel like down and like depressed, that like it does sometimes feel like nothing will ever get better, but that just because it's hard now is no reason to give up. That's only a reason to keep trying, is like how I view things. And I think the like message of hope from like that event, I think really makes that clear that people that have no alternative will never give up. And I don't think anyone else should either.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like the way that I feel is like, this is not, this is so not over. This is just the fucking beginning. Like, This is so fucking far from over. And literally, like, as long as there is a single Palestinian person drawing breath, this will never be over. You know what I mean? So I really believe that is absolutely true. And like seeing these people there really reaffirmed that for me. And made me want to sort of redouble my efforts of like being somebody who cares about this and who's paying attention and doing all they can to be of use, you know. And I hope that our audience can also take some of that to heart as well. I don't know, maybe that's something like that. I don't fucking know.
Welcome back to Western Kabuki. My name is Caleb. As always, I am joined by my co-hosts. June, how are you?
Not bad. I have replaced all of my blood with lavender oil, and I am powerful. I feel great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Alex Goldman, how are you doing, pal?
I'm okay. I'm feeling way too much pressure today to make a funny joke at the top of the show, so I'm just going to say I'm doing fine. I'm not going to say anything else.
You can just be fine. There's nothing wrong with like just being cool, just hanging out, chilling. It's a beautiful thing these days.
June, thank you so much.
Yeah. Of course.
Lolo, how are you doing, pal?
I'm a little bit upset because I lost my punch card for Luke's lobster rolls shop, so now I have to start from the beginning.
How many
punches are we down?
I have only one punch now, so then when I get 6 punches, I get $10 off.
Fuck,
a lobster roll.
Wait, do they do this thing?
I had 5, so I lost one.
Oh man!
I mostly only eat lobster rolls.
This is that
Lobster
drill
rolls are great.
tweet. This is that drill tweet, except it's just lobster rolls instead.
Do they do this thing? Because there's like some stores I go to that have punch cards too, and I never bring them when I go to them. So I just end up collecting like 10 different punch cards with one punch in each of them, and then end up bringing them to the store. And they're like, fuck it, I'll give you like the free coffee or whatever. Do they do that there? Do they accept the like fools like me?
No, they have a very strict single card lobster policy, and if you
you just need to lock in, Alex.
I know.
I think you're not using like the bottom fleeting emoji when you do it. You gotta work on that.
I've just been, I haven't been locked in, so I'm going to be paying attention, and I'll probably laminate this, to be honest.
It would be over for me.
When I worked at Subway for 3 years in high school, and when I left, I took just one of those huge rolls of the stickers that you can get for the free 6-inch sub. And I went on a road trip and I just ate free Subway the whole time, which
so sick.
Which sounds sick, but after eating Subway nonstop for 3 years, I was like, this is like a real Pyrrhic victory to be getting this nasty shit.
Working at Subway is such a like fetus human being job. I did that while I was in college for a little bit, and I know what you mean, like eating it every day because you get like half off or whatever. And just what's worse than eating it every day is the smell. The fucking smell coats you.
You stink like
there's no smell like Subway smell.
It's like your sweat. It smells like Subway too.
Yeah, everything. It replaces your pheromones.
You know
your cells.
Yeah.
There's wait, do you know the story of like the actual story of Jared? Have we talked about this ever?
I mean, I know like of Jared, like the pedophile.
Oh, do you know? Yeah. Yes, yeah, the famous pedophile.
Yeah.
Jared, the Subway,
the Subway guy. He the reason that he like lost all the weight was because he was like living, I think, with his parents or something like that. But he was like living in this small town, and he was stalking this woman who worked at Subway, and he would walk like all the way across town just to see her at Subway.
No,
come on.
And that's part of the reason that he lost all the weight, and also why he was eating Subway every day.
So like one day, like an employee, like a representative, came up to him and was like, "Hey, we have a question for you." And he's like, "I'm fucked. They know I'm stalking her. They know." And they were like, "How about you?"
Porn scandal in college.
Yeah,
Subway fucked up so bad they didn't even vet that guy at all.
They're like, this guy loves Subway. Simple as that.
If
you must
Jared,
be cool. You must be a cool guy. We'll have to look into it.
You know, my favorite thing about Subway, and we're going to introduce our guest here in a second. I apologize, but my favorite thing about Subway is there's only like one video in existence of Jared when he was still fat, and so they use it, but they don't use the audio, and it's a very short clip because he's very clearly pissed off about being filmed. So they do this "You're looking good" song, and he's just shouting. I don't know why they did that. It's so fucking crazy, man.
It's a video of him yelling at that woman.
And they're like, "This dude's dope."
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Special guest joining us this evening, Liv Agar, co-host of the QAA podcast. How are you doing, Liv?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Glad to be back.
Always a pleasure to have you on.
I wish, in a way, well, maybe I'm not glad. Maybe I don't wish we were talking about Jared from Subway. We're talking about something else.
What I will say about Jared, if he waited 10 more years to be outed as a pedophile, Trump would have pardoned him.
Oh, dude, can you imagine Jared going like on his anti-woke crusade, and everyone's like, I'll die for that man.
Literally, that's exactly what
he's like
happened.
a sovereign citizen now. He's constantly doing crazy appeals in prison because he's like full on sovereign citizen.
Oh God, we gotta look into that guy.
Oh God, he's gonna get a pardon by the end of this fucking prison season.
Would be fucking insane. Him and the Silk Road guy.
And
they're arm in arm. Yeah.
Okay. We're talking, God damn it, I wish we could talk about that. Okay. We're talking about something else tonight. I think this is, well, I know because I listened to your show quite a bit. This is a topic that's pretty adjacent. This will have come up here and there on QAA, which is kind of the wellness influencer to Nazi pipeline. It goes by a bunch of different names: the crunchy community, conspirituality. What they call it, I think, is it lavender QAnon or pink QAnon? Different names like of that. It's a predominantly spaces for women, although it's not exclusive.
It's very girl fascism aesthetic.
Yeah,
Red Scare listeners probably listen or like are into this. I imagine. Yeah.
Think of like Marianne Williamson in the 90s, and then like something bad happened, and she started getting real mean. Like, you know, crystal people and such.
Worst case scenario, Marianne Williamson, basically.
Yeah.
The anti-Marianne.
Let's see. So I guess, what is your guys' experience? I know, Liv, you'll probably have the most to say about this because you've covered this. You guys have. But what for the rest of you guys? What's your kind of experience watching this happen? I know it's been going on obviously for a lot longer, but it's really been pandemic was a huge catalyst, and we'll get into all that. And even just the second Trump presidency has really accelerated all this. What's your guys' experience witnessing all this stuff?
For me, I really only started tuning into this like whole world since, as you mentioned, the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, because it really brought to the forefront on social media because everyone was like not doing things in person. Every single person on this planet made like social media accounts and started posting their insane thoughts everywhere. So that's like when I first really started to tune into this like weird alt-right like crunchy community. And like I've always known of like the crunchy like stereotype, but I always associated it with like, oh, like Seattle type people, like West Coast of America type people, like, oh, those are the hippies of today. I never really associated it with any like right-wing ideology before COVID. I would have said it was like a left-leaning probably ideology or like aesthetic, but it really seems to have really gone the opposite way. And like every person that is into it, from what I've seen these days, seems to be either like an American Green Party voter or
Jill Stein voters.
Yeah, or like a weird QAnon right wing type person.
I had a friend who was just pretty crunchy and was a chef, and she turned during the 2016 election because she was like, well, the Democratic Party is hopelessly corrupt because they scammed this poor Bernie Sanders out of his primary. And
which is true. That is true.
But then a guy came along who was like, well, there's a ton of corruption in Washington and we're going to drain the swamp. And then she just fully turned. She is now just like
the only justice for a fallen Jewish presidential candidate is to become a Nazi. Yeah. Liv, how about you?
It is a fascinating movement because I think it's one of the main like pipelines towards fascism and like conspiratorial beliefs that doesn't really line up with the like culture war paradigm. Like astrology, it's like you associate it with, queer, leftist, Seattle, polycule, whatever. But then like there is really nothing fundamentally about a lot of those beliefs that do ground it to a leftist politic. It's more just that it's like, well, it's better than Christianity in terms of like a way of structuring your life and understanding it. Like it's not overtly...
It's like a secular, it's a secular religion belief, if that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
And it is fundamentally like irrational. In the sense, it's not like scientific. It's not trying to find like an objective way of understanding the world. And so if someone leans too into it, you can really start getting them, like afraid of ghosts and things that aren't there. And as there's maybe a broader discussion of like why this happens. But like when people start thinking that way, and especially they get paranoid about politics, like they're very susceptible to the like, okay, well, there's this one group of rootless cosmopolitans who are actually causing all the scary stuff. And, it's like, anti-Semitic sort of rhetoric.
I feel like that's like one of the biggest hooks, though. It's kind of like the reason that all this conspiratorial shit has become so enticing, besides just like, and I mean, you could point to a million different things. Like if we put it on the wall and you tied the strings to everything and make you look like a crazy person. But, there's like distrust in institutions and all this other stuff. But I think the success of it, besides just like the internet's ability to just rapidly share bad information, is like some of it's always like kind of rooted in some realities. And I don't mean like ghosts and like spooky things, but like, distrust of the government and the government doing weird shit to you and experimenting on people. And then, if you actually know the history, right? And like especially of the 1960s and the 70s, I mean, like, Jesus Christ, the American government did horrible things to marginalize people in communities. Like, it's not totally untrue. Some of these like, I don't know.
Well, we're going to get into that a little bit later in the episode.
Sure.
But you're completely right. Like, a lot of the concerns and like distrust specifically over like medical stuff, and that's obviously the vaccines are a big part of this. But like, there are things that come out of like real issues. So like medical sexism is a big one. Why women specifically are in this pipeline, and I just wanted to acknowledge really quick towards the top of the episode anyway, that we are talking about a subject that addresses, women almost exclusively, not entirely. We'll get into some of the men that are in on this too. So when you're just to the listeners, when you're reading about this stuff, just be careful, because in my research, I found there's a level of misogyny baked into all of this. But that is all to say that there are real things that come out of this. Medical sexism is one of them. And, if you think about there was a study that I have linked in my notes here that most of the women that are upset about this kind of thing or get into these movements are their concerns are like opioid addictions and like toxins in our consumer goods and foods and among other things like that. So you're completely right. There's always like in the beginning, there's always something that causes that kind of schism.
I think at the end of the day, it's a lot of people that like many of us, we look at the world and are like, okay, this world fucking sucks, and are looking for like an explanation or something to like lay out a worldview that's to them coherent, maybe, where it's like, obviously this is insane, some of this stuff, but at least it's something. At least for them, it's something.
Yeah, like with alternate medicine, for instance, like as you mentioned, medical sexism, like it takes advantage of the kind of gaps and failures in health, and just like also generally how people feel. And like, I think also takes advantage of like how powerful the placebo effect is. Because it's like, if you really start to believe something, you kind of feel like it's making you feel better. Yeah. Like, honestly, yeah, like if it did come out,
industry, right?
Yeah,
which we'll get into as well.
If like taking away if conspiracy theories like this didn't exist, and it did come out that it's like, oh yeah, Wi-Fi is making you feel like shit, I'd be like, I bet it is. Sure, that makes sense.
I feel like shit all the time, and there's Wi-Fi everywhere. That tracks.
Yeah, exactly.
It is interfering with my brain.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's not the 13 hours of screen time. It's the Wi-Fi.
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
And the constant scrolling of bad news every day. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it can't be that. It's the waves that interfere with my eardrums or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you ever seen those videos where they're like, it's popping popcorn? And like, this is what the waves, this is what the waves are.
Popping popcorn.
Yeah, and they're like, this is what it's doing to your brain right now. I'm like, okay.
So it's like the actual wave of like the popcorn popping. Is it are they trying to say it's like influencing you? Like it's like, oh, the pop makes you want to eat it? No, they're trying to
say that it's like so bad to keep your phone near your head, because it's literally has enough microwave energy to pop popcorn.
Oh my fucking God.
Even though cell phones emit non-ionizing radiation, but that's okay. We don't need to get into that right now. Okay, there are a lot of so people associate this obviously with the current moment, and then Lolo, you had traced it back to the 60s. If you really want to get into it, this stuff is over 100 years old. You're thinking of alternate stuff when Dr. Pepper was a real doctor, and they put fucking cocaine in colas and stuff like that. That kind of like turn of the last century, like alternative weird, where you could just like buy a medical degree for $5. So, medicine was a kind of a different concept back then.
People would roll up to towns in like a wagon and be like, check out this serum I have.
Yeah, the Simpson and Sons like sex tonic. Like, yeah, real shit. Yeah,
it kills like half of the villagers, and they're like, it works.
There was that guy. What's his name? John Brinkley.
Who's that?
He was like basically he figured out that he could
not John Hinckley, friend of the show.
not John Hinckley. He figured out that he could set up a transmitter outside of the United States in Mexico that would be so powerful that he could reach the United States, and they couldn't do anything about it. They couldn't regulate what he said. And basically what he did was he was like, hey, listen, I've discovered the secret to like virility and longevity, and what it is taking goat testicles and sewing them into your thighs. And
what the fuck?
And he did this.
Oh shit! I knew it.
People did anything back then.
And he was like, he was massively, massively wealthy and famous. And people came from all over the world to get goat testicles sewed into them.
Did it make them more virile? Dude.
No, it killed a lot of them.
Oh shit! I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed that. That's crazy.
So I think a lot of, I guess the prerequisites to make these people turn right wing have already been there this entire time. When you look at what's in, I guess, the foundations of New Age roots, right? You've got cultural appropriation or cultural colonialism. You think about what pops in your head when you think of somebody who's in this movement. Maybe a white woman wearing a bindi with dreadlocks and a spiritual gangster t-shirt on, right? There's a lot going on there. They in these movements, they have a lot of emphasis on, individual sovereignty and kind of body purity and white spiritualism. So again, all those prerequisites are there. So when you take that and add in the real things that cause that kind of schism, and I'd had a note at the top of this here, like, I think to become any sort of extremist, you do have to have some sort of schism that makes you turn your back on, I guess, the established order or, the status quo, so to speak, whether you're a fascist or a communist. And we've, they've got that, and they've kind of got these already not awesome things that aren't necessarily inherently, hateful or bigoted, but they're just a little not great. So then you take in something like the pandemic, which was a huge, I guess, accelerant to all this.
Yeah, no, it was kind of like ground zero for like I mean, I don't think it would be a stretch that like COVID is why we have RFK Jr. as the health and Human Services Secretary to this day. Like, if COVID didn't happen, I first of all, I think Biden wouldn't have won the election, and I think two, like, of course, like there is no like surge.
So you're confirming that it was an intentional lab leak. You're on their side.
they planned. Yeah, no, it's all. I trust Joe Biden. Trust the process. Dark Brandon. Yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
we're going to get into all that in a second. That's kind of the next phase here. I do have an article from the Atlantic, friends of the show, that I was going to see if somebody wants to read.
Quick question before we get into the thing. Do you guys know that lady who is like, she does the rapping and she's always in like
Shannon
a car?
Blake.
Yep. Friend of the show, Shannon Blake.
Wait, is this like a like crunchy influencer? Is that who this
is?
Is?
She's
yes, this lady.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody here knows who she is, even if you don't recognize her.
I don't know if I do. Hold on.
No, you do. You do.
You do.
You 100% do.
Yeah.
Okay, I found her Instagram. Oh, yes, I do. I do.
So funny.
I feel like someone that is like this and looks like this can't have that name. Like that is not the name
ridiculous
that I would expect here.
This is a very how would you describe this person?
I would describe her as like a conventionally attractive young white woman who has disgusting dreadlocks, tons of like new age signifiers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining
a chest
like
tattoo of a
butterfly.
No, it's like a multicolored bird, a macaw or whatever.
She's like if the Island Boys were Island Girls. Is what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
She's what happens when the Island Boys like do the Goku thing where they like melt when they bend. Yeah.
The power up, yeah. No, I forget she actually does music too. I saw a video of her at a concert once, and it seemed like people were there, and she was like so grateful. She was like, "Thanks, I forget how she talks, but she was like, "Thanks for coming, everyone. I couldn't do this without all of y'all." And I'm like, "What? Like, this is crazy." She does like what, reggae? Is that what it is? I forget.
I would have to assume.
Yeah.
I don't. It's hippie music. It's like I don't know how to describe it better than that because it's not any particular.
We're definitely
genre.
going to splice in a little clip of it for
little
people
Shannon Blake.
I'm well aware that I attract what I allow in. I am a vibration, people can tune in. I broadcast, I am love, I am abundance. I am an armor made the golden light I trust in. My spirit guides, they help me land upon the best path. I'm learning how to navigate being an empath. Sometimes the red flags look green, I forget that I'm even.
Realize,
just to punish our listeners.
Realize, beautiful miracle, sort of like.
He lied. She believed. Sorry.
Every Burning Man, there's a rumor that she died at it. I mean, that's happened like 3 years in a row.
She has songs about the pyramids and how she like healed her own like infection without any medicine. Like there's like a lot. There's that stuff is all right in the lyrics. It's really gnarly.
Wasn't she also one of the butthole sun people? Where you like
you got me, man.
Point your ass towards the sun.
Yeah. The butthole.
Maybe I'm making that up. I don't know. See, that's the thing.
It's like the Liver King.
That's
thing.
a lot of people. That's a lot of people. A lot of people.
I'm one of them. I've been doing that for years.
People do that, putting their
That's why I'm so healthy
in the sun.
Is the Liver King still alive? Like that dude dropped.
He got canceled because everybody found out he wasn't natty. I had in my original draft. In my original draft of this, there was a whole thing on the Liver King, but I had to make some serious cuts. Unfortunately,
that dude, he wasn't natural. Damn.
Let's let Alex read this. Sorry.
This is for context. This is like from 2022, and it's kind of looking back on things that had happened recently. There,
The Crunchy to Alt-Right Pipeline by Catherine Ballou. On Twitter and TikTok, over the past few weeks, scores of users have become alarmed about the uncomfortable coziness between the natural food and body community and white power and militant right online spaces. The quote, Crunchy to Alt-Right Pipeline. Crunchy, coined as a pop culture reference to granola, has come to refer to a wide variety of cultural practices, including avoiding additives in food dyes, declining or spacing out childhood vaccinations beyond what pediatricians recommend, and more extreme actions in pursuit of health, independence, and purity. Back to the land living and alternative medicine are hallmarks of crunch. Much of the subculture is benign, a declaration of anti-modernism or slow living, but this largely white cultural space shares some preoccupations with right-wing organizations which have used it for recruitment. In the 1970s and 80s, women in the emergent white power movement, which gathered Ku Klux Klan members, neo-Nazis, skinheads, Christian identity members, tax resistors, and other militant right activists, deployed what we would now call crunchy issues as part of a wider articulation of cultural identity.
Wait, so it was always like the women's wing of the KKK? That's fucking insane.
That is pretty bonkers. These bits of crunchiness included organic farming, the macrobiotic diet, neo-paganism, anti-fluoridation, and traditional midwifery. All of these are often thought of as leftist or hippie issues, but they appeared regularly in the robust outpouring of women's publications in the white power movement. The surprise at the crunchy to alt-right pipeline, or at the closeness between the radical right and the radical left, reveals a problem with common ideas about left, right, and center in American politics. In general discourse, and too often in historiography, we use a measure that harkens back to World War II, with the left, aligned with the communist USSR, on one end, a flat line running through a political center, democracy in the United States, and the right on the other, where fascism and Nazi Germany reside. This idea of a political spectrum implies that left and right share little in common. Are we getting to horseshoe theory here? And that they are diametrically opposed.
Of course we are.
It also positions fascism as far away from American politics when recent history shows us quite the opposite. The archive of the white power movement, a vivid repository of letters, newspapers, personal correspondence, images, FBI files, news reports, and court records collected across decades, suggests the reality is much more complex. Left and right not only grew close to each other in the 70s and 80s, but they sometimes shared much more with each other than with the political center. Oh, some political scientists have suggested a horseshoe theory. There we go.
Oh, of course. Oh,
boo.
They were
but wait, it's the Atlantic, so they're going to reinvent the horseshoe theory.
With the center
Thanks,
as the rounded top of a horseshoe and the two fringes on either end, but inclined toward one another. This image, while evocative, isn't quite right. In the archive, it looks more like a circle.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Okay.
The horseshoe circle.
In the 1980s, for instance, white supremacist compounds and hippie communes could exist in the same rural communities. Consider Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, the home of white separatist compound Aryan nations. Coeur d'Alene also attracted other survivalists and people who wanted distance from the state, as well as environmentally inclined leftists attracted to scenic lakes and mountains. Scholars have spent ample time on other alliances between neighbors in this period, such as the way the white power movement radicalized its rural neighbors affected by the farm crisis in the 1970s.
Just a quick note here. I find that paragraph frankly a little bit baffling. There's a lot of good stuff in this article, but that is so stupid. As somebody who lives out here, where Matt Shea and the white nationalist compounds and all that are in either Coeur d'Alene, which is like right near the Washington border, or like
is it Coeur d'Alene?
Washington State. Yeah, Coeur d'Alene.
Whoops.
The reason that first of all, the reason that the Nazis moved out there is because, and I can't remember the author's name. He had essentially wrote a book in the 70s saying settle this area, settle Washington and Idaho, and move out there. The reason that the communes are out there and stuff like that is because it's where you can get cheap land away from things. That's what it is. There's no connection other than that. Sorry, just had to throw that in there.
No, it's just in the soil, dude. You don't get it.
Beginning in the 1970s, the alternative lifestyle publication Mother Earth News ran articles on organic gardening and other issues championed by the left. Though the publication itself was not an organ of the white power movement and indeed often espoused leftist positions, in at least one high-profile case, white power activists used its classified section to find one another. Robert Matthews, the leader of the white power terrorist group The Order, first met his first wife through the magazine's personal advertisements.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a meet cute.
I like that all of these.
Crazy.
If you like pina coladas,
all of these, like The Order, the Aryan Nation, all of these sound like Fallout factions. Like, what's going on here?
Matthews would lead the Order on a spree of racist and anti-Semitic assassinations, robberies, and infrastructure attacks that in many ways laid the foundation for violent strategies used by white power and militant activists today.
All right, I take really back what I said.
Up, Lolo.
I take back what I said. I take it back. Sorry, I'm a romantic. I don't know.
Love is love.
What do you think? What did he put in the fucking thing?
I would love to. I would kill to read that.
So good. Hold on,
I'm sure there's like an archive somewhere out there, like in
racist shithead
looking
for partner to blow stuff up with. His wife, Debbie Matthews, had a movement career of her own that lasted long after her husband's death at the hands of pursuing federal agents, and traded on his martyrdom. The Matthews family lived in Medellin Falls, Washington, and commuted to nearby Hayden Lake, Idaho. In addition to the Aryan Nation's compound, Hayden Lake and nearby Coeur d'Alene hosted teepee-dwelling hippie communities, alternative lifestyle followers, Northwestern outdoorsmen, fundamentalist Mormons, and survivalists unaffiliated or loosely affiliated with white supremacy. Issues common to these groups accorded with ideas of purity, an interest in survivalism, and a deep distrust of the government. To be sure, the meaning of each of these issues would have been different to activists of different political persuasions, even in the same communities. Homeschooling, for instance, could be used as a white power movement and as part of an intentional community or cult on the left. Midwifery might be powered by anti-feminism and strict gender divides on the right, or by women's liberation and ideas of empowerment on the left. Anti-technology might be only selectively applied in a right-wing compound, such as the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord, whose residents eschewed modern conveniences, but manufactured landmines and automatic weapons in their remote Ozarks compound.
Holy shit.
Fucking Christ. What are people up to out there? Every fucking day I learn
That's
about
the Ozarks. That's got nothing to do with us, all right? We just have Matt Shea, the Christo-fascist who got removed from Congress because he was too racist.
I found the advertisement that guy put in the newspaper, actually.
No way. Please read it.
Yeah. Seeking pure love. Single, white, and I mean white, male, 42, self-employed in, quote, independent media. Loves long walks along historically inaccurate borders and grilling unseasoned meats. Looking for fertile, submissive wife who can cook, clean, and help preserve the declining moral fabric of Western civilization.
Shit, they just ran with that. That's crazy.
Wow.
No, sorry. I just wrote that right now. Sorry.
Okay.
That's bullshit.
You had me there for like the first two lines.
Yeah.
Must hate immigrants, fluoride, diversity, and my ex-wife.
I'm going to edit this to make it sound like I knew that was fake the whole time, just to be clear. Another part of this Venn diagram is anti-fluoridation, the movement to oppose the government's addition of fluoride to drinking water, to reduce dental decay. This cause was taken up from an individual rights perspective by libertarians who argued that public infrastructure needs to not outweigh people's ability to make decisions about their own dental health. It was also treated by members of the right-wing John Birch Society as a communist conspiracy to undermine American public health. This alliance between anti-communists and libertarians is well documented in the history of American conservatism. And one can easily imagine how these two concerns could also be translated to social conservatism and survivalist evangelicals, to name a few other right-wing constituencies. Communism, after all, was seen as a threat to Christianity, and the individual decisions argument resonated with social conservatives interested in other issues that depended on individual choice. Anti-fluoridation was also taken up by a former executive director of the Sierra Club, among other environmentalists, who argued that fluoride was a risk to ecosystems and a pollutant.
I have to cut in here. This always bothers me when they talk about this, because Eastern Washington in particular has higher levels of fluoride in the natural water than the regulated amount there.
Oh, so really?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Interesting that they don't mention that, or these people don't really care about that, despite living there.
Alexandra Minna Stern's 2005 book, and this book has a wild title, Eugenic Nation, documents the intersection between eugenics, hereditarianism, and other forms of white supremacist pseudoscience on the one hand, and environmentalism in general, and the Sierra Club in particular on the other. But such work has largely focused on the early 20th century and leaves out a main thread in that connected the left and the right in the 1980s and 1990s. The idea of a looming apocalypse. White power activists worried that fluoride would make people docile, such that revolution against the state and race war would be harder to accomplish.
So that's
then
what
why
people
did you
are
tell
talking
your
about.
people to colonize a place where the water fluoridation is already very high?
They wanted them to get that fluoride stare. They had that fluoride stare since the 80s and 90s. That's crazy that's just like been a thing though for this whole time. Like I thought fluoride stare was like a 2023 invention, but that like actually is clearly been like the theory since the 80s.
It was the thing is, before the internet, it was super fucking fringe. I did not hear about this stuff until much, much later. In the white power movement, anti-fluoridation and the fear that the state would contaminate water or allow communists to do so is particularly significant, given that they were also interested in water contamination as a warfare strategy. In the early 1980s, one white power group planned to poison Chicago, New York, and Washington, D.C.'s water supply with 30 gallons of cyanide in order to foment revolution.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Shit, okay.
That's fucking
Remember
wild.
when I was talking to you guys earlier about Atomwaffen, how they were out here?
Yeah.
A lot of fucking crazy people out here.
How many people
damn.
would that actually, like, how much is that actually?
I mean, a cyanide kills you with like a drop, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wonder, like, how effective, like, just out of curiosity, as a guy who has 30 gallons of cyanide looking to get rid of it.
Well, these people are all really into homeopathy too, right? So they were like, the more we dilute it, the more effective it's going to be. By making this nightmare about fouled water come true, these activists believed they could awaken the public, revealing the state as the enemy and bringing people to their cause.
That's great. They wanted to just plan like a mass false flag. And they're like, see, we told you guys.
Just doing NACM for like no reason, basically.
Yeah. Like I guess that would like maybe work, but why? Like if you know you're wrong, what's going on there? Why you know you're wrong if you have to like trick people into it?
The pipeline is real. Individual people are indeed being recruited into the militant right. Some of them make this journey through crunchy online spaces into white power content, as the sociologist Cynthia Miller Idris has documented in Hate in the Homeland. But the crunchy to alt-right pipeline conversation gives us a chance to see something crucial that is often lost in depictions of right-wing formations. The white power movement is not just men marching in the streets. It's also women sharing cultural materials through social networks. Women and the cultural materials upon which they exert the most intense influence are where we can see that this is a social movement. So if you come across crunchy content that clicks through to trad wives, for instance, you're encountering both a fluidity of belief and opportunism. Many people who advocate for crunchy issues expressed horror and surprise at the pipeline conversation because they felt manipulated. And yes, this is manipulation. It's direct recruitment. And let's not be confused about the end game. White power activists, then and now, envision an all-white ethno-state or world achieved through profound violence, and no macrobiotic diet or apple cider vinegar remedy can ameliorate that message. And that is the end of the article.
Yeah, one thing about like new age medicine stuff is it is based upon vibes, and like so are fascists. Like they're like, I want a clean country. It's like they want to feel clean, and so they greatly appeal. This like greatly appeals to them.
I didn't get into it when we were talking about this before, but like the white spiritual thing, white spiritualism thing. Both of them are definitely like aesthetic movements as much as anything. Okay, so now that we've got a kind of a good baseline and history of everything, let's go back to a little bit before present day and talk about, the pandemic happens, but even a little bit before that, we've got QAnon. Liv, do you want to talk a little bit about QAnon's role in all this and the pipelining?
Yeah, QAnon, especially as it like functions practically, is an interesting it's not even like a conspiracy, it's like a meta conspiracy theory that allows you to like put any conspiracy theory you want into it.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe.
It's like a buffet.
Exactly.
Of sorts,
you can add like Kingo and Droog or whatever.
Some people don't like those.
Yeah, like if you really like Kingo,
flops,
you can yeah.
But it's still there, yeah.
Yeah. And this sort of, I think this way of thinking is very prone to conspiracy theories because it's very vibe based. It's like, I bet that there's just like a group of people who are doing bad things. It's very simplistic, easy to understand. And it feels good, right? It's very like, vibe based politics. And so like QAnon and like the spread of QAnon as a conspiracy theory created a lot of these conspiratorial hubs online that like facilitated and kind of acted almost as like an end pipeline for people in like the crunchy movement, for instance, to arrive into.
So it was like a funnel up situation. Like it started like here in like the fluoride thing, and then eventually it would be like, oh, QAnon, of course. That's the ultimate thing.
Because it's all the cabal, right? They're doing all the evil shit. They're in Hollywood. Yeah, exactly. They. And so it's like, well, they're doing fluoride as well, I guess. They're the ones who are making the 5G make my tummy hurt or whatever.
Yeah, there's a study done. It was by the Public Religion Research Institute that during the height of this, like 2020, I think was the year that they did this. 15 to 20% of Americans agreed with at least one various core of the QAnon claims, such as Satan worshiping pedophiles currently control the government, or a coming storm will sweep the Capitol, or any number of these things. The study itself is fucking crazy. Think about that. 15 to 20% of Americans during the peak of this believed that. That's how
they just believed
the pandemic in their brains.
They just believed the world was gonna end soon. Like living around people that like genuinely believe that is insane. Like all these people can vote.
Yeah, and
and they do.
Yeah,
very hard,
as we have seen very recently. Yeah, like this sort of like new age medicine stuff was also really important to boost COVID, because like QAnon just like boosted so rapidly as a result of the pandemic. I think a part of that is that people had to actually like interface in a really serious way with public health. Like beforehand, it was like, oh, you're like a vaccine kook, whatever. But now it's like, oh, everyone, like I can't go get my treats. So like I have to think about this in a much more serious way. It's very immediately political.
Right. Because like it was interfering with people's lives directly. Yeah.
I do want to talk about the grifting aspect of this. Maybe we can just keep it open and loose. But the reason that I wanted to do that specifically was because I didn't know this, but you guys familiar with JP Sears?
I have never heard of this person before. Never.
Yeah, you have. You think
what
you
haven't.
Mean?
Just like
Blake
Shannon
yes,
or whatever?
This guy's awesome.
Is he the founder of Sears?
No, he is
Sears Tower.
Okay. Before I give you the ultimate reveal, and don't scroll down in the notes if you don't want this to be spoiled.
Okay.
He started out as a guy who was like a business coach, like a life coach guy on YouTube, and he got nowhere with it. So he kind of switched it and flipped it on its head, where he was like, I'm going to be an ironic life coach and kind of make it silly and funny. And then he kind of moved into comedy, and he started getting some serious numbers on this. And then he moved into like he would do like roasts of like his famous thing that really got him off the ground was he would do like, this is what made him a comedian, was he'd do a stand-up or a YouTube video, and it was like, if you, the big one that I remember was Spokane. Spokane sucks. PU. There's too many brown people here. What's wrong with this city? Basically, right? No. Just reactionary bullshit. But during all this, he was like very critical of like new age movements and stuff like that. However, as this started to happen, he flipped the script on that. He got very into this QAnon stuff. He got very into, you know, the I guess the medical conspiracies and things of that nature too. And he got basically became a QAnon guy. You may remember him as the guy with really long red hair that would do skits with like the Daily Wire guys about like the fastest woman swimmer and everything like that.
Wait, I think I have seen this guy. Yeah. You
may also remember him as the voice of Norm from The New Norm.
No!
That's right. That's right, motherfuckers. The New Norm, the voice of The New Norm, started out as a fucking life coach and got radicalized by QAnon and all this shit. And that's why we have The New Norm.
Wait, is he still the voice actor for Norm?
Yeah. By the way, they have 5 episodes out now. I just looked at that.
I've been hoping that we would have like at least 20 by now. I'm very sad that they only have 5. Yeah, I really wanted like a whole like saga of Norm.
Well, we were really looking forward to covering that, and they just have been so slow to release those. But
I know.
I mean, we could do a whole episode on just JP Sears. I frankly, I love that guy. Reading about him in research for my research for this was such a treat because he's just a classic dullard.
I kind of hate, but I also love this like right wing cinematic like universe that there is for like these influencers. They all jack each other off and use each other in like these different insane things. Is the New Norm Daily Wire, or that's just like some bullshit?
No, it's its own thing. I looked into maybe I shouldn't say this. Is this going to be a premium episode? I don't know.
I think this is going to be main feed.
Well, I was looking into it and I found the creator's cell phone number on accident.
How do you do that on accident? What do you? I mean, maybe don't say it, but that's crazy.
That's what I was saying. I'm not going to get into that.
The ability with which you find people's information is.
Well, I accidentally found Mark Kern's cell phone number in the same way. So, anyway, point is, I'm going to reach out to get to the creator of the New Norm on. I can't remember his name. He and his wife created it, but. I'm gonna see if he wants to come on. Like, where were the episodes, man? You're leaving us high and dry. Okay.
New Norm fan podcast. That's how you should pitch us.
In any, yeah, we're the leading New Norm fan cast. So there's JP Sears, and he does this. Like I said, the whole point of that was to say he basically turns on a dime here, and he's now selling supplements. He's making all this money, and he basically turns his back again on what he started out doing to grift on this. But there's a couple of others, and the other one that I wanted to kind of point out here.
Do you think, before we move on, do you think JP Smears, I was going to call him JP Smears. do you think, is he a true believer? It's like all for the money for him, right? Or is he like actually a genuine believer of this?
So, yeah, we can just get into the other person that I was going to get into talking about this. Her name is Christiane Northrup, and she was like in like the 80s and 90s was like an Oprah guest a lot, and she always was kind of like Marianne Williamson adjacent, where it was like some of this is like woo-woo bullshit, but she wasn't like that bad, and she was actually really well respected, and like I said, literally on Oprah multiple times.
Being on Oprah was like being the president back in those days.
Back then for sure, yeah. And I don't know if this is true. Maybe I'm making this up because I'm not looking at the notes, but I believe she was like a New York Times best-selling author and stuff like that. But the point is, she did the same thing where when this happens, she was like one of the main proponents of the Plandemic documentary. She was like one of the first like big names to share this, and this was the reason that she specifically are so important, and kind of the JP Sears too, is because they're bringing in normies into the pipeline in a way that has, when you think of this kind of stuff, you just think of like terminally online freaks, you know what I mean, that we usually cover, but these people brought in millions of normies into this pipeline. So the reason I put that in there too is because that's the question, right? Do these people actually believe it? I think you've got people like them. I think that she does to an extent. I think that she actually does, because she didn't back down. She hasn't backed down on any of this. And I don't know how much you've talked about her on your show, Liv, but even after the QAnon stuff has fallen through, she's still like a true believer on that. JP Sears, I think it's a mixture. You know what I mean? It's like a kind of a hybrid where he believes, but it's also convenient to believe. And then you've got guys like Alex Jones, where it's like, this guy believes in fucking nothing. He's just selling. I mean, I have it in my notes here, actually, specifically about him. How much did he make? It was like $18 million in 3, based on the lawsuit where The Onion may or may not be owning all those supplements soon. We don't know yet.
Still a question. Yeah,
is that
still a question?
It is still a question. It's okay. Maybe I shouldn't say too much, but it is likely going to go well. But it's just basically Alex Jones has his lawyers start like a new suit every day. It's just like clogging the court. Yeah,
he's good at stalling.
I got that number way wrong. $165 million over 3 years. Sorry,
Jesus
way more.
Fucking Christ, evil. Yeah. Just lying to people about this shit and making so much money. Just sad.
It is so fascinating with Jones, because it's like, if you just like lied a little bit less insane, you get to keep all of the money. Mm-hmm. Like just tone it down 10%.
Yeah, if like he didn't start going into like the crisis actors thing, he probably would have been like mostly untouched.
Honestly, even if he like just didn't quadruple down into the crisis actor thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it was really. I love those like chats where it's like Paul Joseph Watson being like, should we say these things? Like, he's the one guy in the room who's like, I don't know if this is a good idea. And they're all like, no, fuck it.
I love that he was like the reasonable guy in the room, and he's fallen off. When was the last time you heard about that guy?
Because he's cynical. He's clearly cynical, and he presents things in a way he's like, I know my audience is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Which is very funny to see.
He's just feeding piggies their slop, frankly. Okay. There was a lot, and I think actually it's good that we skipped over the part about algorithms and everything, because, you know, there's a lot to be said about how social media, the internet, plays its part in this, and because they're incentivized by nothing but clicks, they don't care about what happens to the world or their users. They just need the line to go up.
Yeah, there's so much there, especially with like second Trump term nonsense, with like Zuckerberg kind of leaning into like the whole reactionary space a little bit, and like not endorsing Trump, but like cozying up to Trump in a way that he has.
Mean, it goes hand in hand with this. And we do have B working on our research producer working on an episode specifically on the Facebook files. I think we'll talk about it a little bit then. And then it goes obviously into the Twitter files too. People kind of conflate the Twitter files with the Hunter Biden laptop, but I mean, all this stuff was in there for sure too. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good episode of just like specifically how social media companies did this and fucked everybody's brains up.
Going back,
I'm glad we are skipping that.
Yeah. No, going back and looking at like the Facebook stuff, and specifically the Twitter files, and like re-examining those will be a lot of fun, because it's been like almost 3 years now since that shit happened, and I cannot wait to see how goofy it was.
Yeah. That's probably a good place to wrap. We're not wrapping it. We're putting a pin in it for now.
Definitely revisit, because
we're going to
come
back on this for sure. Liv, where can our listeners find you?
Yes, I have a podcast called QAA. I've just been working on a series called Science in Transition, basically about the anti-trans backlash in the past decade or so, and like the history of it. So we go into like the early medical clinic, gender clinic, and like the early evil clinicians, and how their sort of position is broadly what like the anti-trans backlash is based upon. You can listen to that. I'm sure I'll get a link to you guys if people are interested in that.
Absolutely.
No,
I haven't listened to it yet. It's not out, but knowing the base of that information, like knowing what that would be about, it's going to be so fascinating. I think not a lot of people know about a lot of that history, and it's not bad to learn the history. It's just like useful to learn in context of where we are today.
Yeah. So yeah, coming out June 1st.
June 1st,
awesome.
Everyone, go check it out.
Looking forward to it. Anything else, guys?
I think subscribe to the Patreon. I guess support us. I don't know.
I got one.
You got one. What's up?
Chiral Mindset is Finally, sorry, I think we said Christmas originally, and now it's June. It's happening. Marcos and we're doing it. We're going to kick it off, I think, either June, maybe July, because we got invited to do a live charity stream thing where we're going to do like a coast to coast style, like listener call in thing, and just get real weird with it. So, it's finally it's finally coming out this time, guys. I know I've said that to you guys twice, but we're on it.
It's been a long pursuit for us, the Carl mindset, but it's arriving, and it's going to be so good. Obviously, Marcos, everyone loves Marcos. He's the homie. Can't wait for that.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all I got. We'll see you next week. Liv, thank you so much.
Oh, wait.
Lolo, you got something? You guys got something?
Yeah, I got something.
Plug it.
Okay. If you like pure European lineage and distrust the FDA, if you think the West is in danger and love family in a vague way, if you dream of homesteading and rejecting the deep state, then I'm the man you've been seeking. Come with me and escape.
We got our bachelor here, Lolo. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I'm fucking out of here. I can't do this shit.
I just need everybody at home really quick to understand what it's like to record a Lolo, because it's this, and he's just sending us pictures of Jared from Subway.